Hello everyone, you are watching Silcharians Talent and welcome to my channel. This is the second part of the chapter Rebels and the Raj, the revolt of 1857 and its representation. In today's video, I have taken the second topic of the chapter, that is Awadh in revolt, which is divided into three subtopics. Topic number one is a cherry that will drop into our mouth one day. Then the second topic, that is second subtopic, is the life was gone out of the body, and the third subtopic is Firangi Raj and the end of the world. So we will begin our video today with 2.1, that is a cherry that will drop into our mouth one day. So from this topic we came to know that Governor General Lord Dalhousie considered the kingdom of Awadh as a cherry that will drop into their mouth one day. In 1856, the kingdom of Awadh was formally annexed to the British Empire. Again in 1801, the subsidiary alliance and the Nawab was compelled to disband his military force and permitted British troops to take their position in the Awadh kingdom. Nawab could act as per the advice or direction of the British resident. Nawab was kept deprived of his army. He became argumentally dependent on British to uphold the law and the other order within the state of Awadh. Nawab was not in the condition to maintain control over the rebellious chiefs and talukdars. Now an interest was awakened in Britishers to capture the territory of Awadh. It was because the soil was good for the production of indigo and cotton. That is why it is considered as a cherry that will drop into their mouth one day. Now the major areas of India were overcome by the Britishers by the early 1850s. The areas were included in the Maratha land, the Doab, the Carnatic, the Punjab and Bengal. The annexation of Awadh in 1856 was assumed to furnish the process of territorial annexation that had started with the victory of Bengal more than 100 years ago. So before we move on to our next subtopic, let us first see what is subsidiary alliance. Now the subsidiary alliance was first imposed on Awadh in the year 1801. Now this system was devised by Lord Wellesley in 1798. All those who entered into such an alliance with the British had to accept certain terms and conditions, which were as follows. Number one is that the Britishers would be responsible for protecting their ally for external and internal threats to their power. Now, in the territory of the ally, a British armed contingent would be stationed. Now, the ally would have to provide the resources for maintaining this contingent. Now, next one is that the ally could enter into agreement with other rulers or engage in warfare only with the permissions of the British. So after the subsidiary alliance, we move on to our next subtopic, the life was gone out of the body. Here we'll talk about annexation. Now annexation, which was done about Lord Dalhousie, created a kind of disloyalty in all the areas and principalities which were much more in the kingdom of Awadh. And Awadh was basically known as the heart of North India that time. Nawab Wajid Ali Shah was dethroned and banished to Calcutta. Now British gave an excuse that he was banished because he was unable to rule, or he was a very unsuccessful king, or we can say that it was a state which was misgoverned. Now British government wrongly supposed that Nawab had become unpopular ruler, whether he was loved extensively. People showed his lamentation by their song when they followed the Nawab on the way up to Kanpur from Lucknow. Some quoted, "The life was gone out of the body, and the body of this town had been left up lifeless." Now each and every street, a market and house was lamented. The court of Awadh was, as well as its culture, was dissipated with the removal of the Nawab. Large number of people had also lost their life or livelihood. Now musicians, dancers, poets, artisans, cooks, retainers, administrative officials, etc. were among them. Now let us move on to our next subtopic, that is Firangi Raj and the end of the world. So here we can see that a chain of hardship in Awadh was linked with prince, talukdar, peasant and the sepoy. The revenue became an expression of popular resistance to an alien order. Now the annexation of Awadh displaced the Nawab. It also dispossessed the talukdars of this region. The rural areas of Awadh was dotted with the forts and the estates of talukdars. The British were not ready to tolerate the power of talukdars. After annexation of Awadh, and the talukdars were disarmed and their forts were destroyed. The British land revenue policy was greatly undermined the power and authority of the talukdars. The first British revenue settlement was known as Summary Settlement of 1856. It was based on the assumption that the talukdars were intruders. They had no permanent stake in land. Now, British had set up their hold over land with the help of force and fraud. Revenue settlements led to removal of talukdars wherever possible. The talukdars of southern Awadh were hit the hardest. They lost a large number of villages. Now, British officers supposed to settle the land with the actual owners of the soil, and the peasants' exploitation would be minimized. It could not happen in practice. Burden of revenue, demand on the farmers was not declined. Entire social order breakdown by the dispossession of talukdars. The ties of patronage and loyalty that had bounded to the peasants of the talukdars were disrupted. Before British age, the talukdars were opposed, but some of them looked to be kind father figures. Talukdars accrued a number of dues from the peasants. They helped them in need. Now, under the British rule, the peasants were exposed directly to the overassessment of revenue and rigid methods of revenue collections. During Revolt of 1857, the resistance was intense and long-lasting in the Awadh state. The fighting was carried out by the talukdars and their farmers. Several talukdars were loyal to the Nawab, so they joined Begum Hazrat Mahal. Few remained with her in defeat. Dissatisfaction of the farmers was carried over into the sepoy lines because a great majority of sepoys were recruited from the villages of Awadh. The sepoys were not satisfied with the low wages and difficulty of getting leave. There were other causes of their discontent by 1850s. The relationship of the sepoys with the senior white officers underwent an important change in the year preceding the uprising of 1857. In 1840s, it started a change. The officer had developed a sense of higher authority and began to treat the sepoys as their racial inferiors, riding roughshod over them or over their sensibilities. Abuse and physical violence became common. All this created a great moat between sepoys and the officers. So with this, I conclude today's video. Stay tuned for the next part of the chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye.